Then game number 3 is going to be starting in just a minute, and as you can see in the text, it's going to be Islands as the home map of Vikingos Nomadas. So yep, that was one of the two that I was actually guessing, that it could be Migration or Islands, as they are pretty good on water. I was favoring Migration a whole lot, because they have used it before, but Islands, yeah, that's another water map, and I'm kind of thinking this is actually a soundtrack from the Rise of Rome. Bit more aggressive entry than the other ones. Normal Age of Empires one, but to finish, I'm not exactly sure it's going to be such a smart choice against VIKs, because Winchester is pretty great on water overall, and VIKs are really pretty good on it. So I'm not really all that certain it's going to be great, but I'm thinking that VNs are gonna take multiple Vikings in here, and hoping that they surprise VIKs. But since VIKs have seen it already, I'm thinking they will do the same. Yes, exactly. So it's going to be 5 Vikings with one Japanese, and we have seen this already. Previous round, I think it was quarterfinals, not even round of 16. But we have seen that the triple Vikings is not as strong as it seems in the first place, at first sight, and much more importantly, the extra difference in there and abilities by the Japanese will be paying off quite strongly. So yep, I'm really favoriting that the double Vix and Japanese team is actually gonna win, as the triple saving is not as great as it might seem on paper. It really isn't. So there's a pretty good reason why it never was meta in Age of Empires for the last 15 years. There's a good reason with that. So let's check around the islands, as we are having an interesting dry version of them. I don't really remember seeing that all that often. That's definitely new for me, at least for some kind of late months and such. And overall, looking at the fishies, for example, that's a bit of a problem on the corner, of course, for the purple player Milo. And is he in the pocket? Oh yes, he is. So that's actually a pretty big problem for him, because if he sets up himself at the very back, hoping for faster castle, which is something that you do in the pocket, that might be not really ideal, and he definitely has to hope that he establishes himself about here, as that would be much better placement, looking at all the deep fish in here. And yep, this is going to be one of the deciders in the game. If he sets himself up at the back, it's going to be bad news for him. If not, it's going to be pretty much alright. Otherwise, the corners are passable, not great, even though it's much better, of course, than the right side, where there is absolutely nothing. So, yep, it's something that we will. I might actually want to change the room, sorry. Glad I noticed actually soon. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Yep, I'm just gonna probably start again. And that's it, we are seeing 5 Vikings and 1 Japanese, and I am favoring the Viks with the Japanese because that usually makes for a much better variance in the gameplay, and it is not such a one-trick pony as the Vikings. So yep, this is the darkness and nothingness in the right side for the corner, so if Milo sets himself up in this part of the map, he's definitely not gonna be all that happy about it, but if he sets up about here, it's going to be pretty much fine, as there is a lot of deep fish about this part of the map. Same goes pretty much for Blue, who is having really not a bad spot for himself to place himself, because I don't expect he's gonna go anywhere else than the back. If he goes somewhere to the front, not ideal, but not very bad, at least for the early game, so he shouldn't be suffering in the advanced times, which is what is usual in galley rushing and such, but otherwise the corners are pretty much fine. For Courage at the back, for Winchester on the left, and for Dark Knight at the very bottom. Potentially some problem could be in the front, if maybe Dark Knight chose to build his docks about here. There are not really all that many fishies, just literally one deep fish and some short fish. Deep fish on the left, so not really ideal at all for him, and that's going to be pretty much fine. This is alright, even though you can see that right now Courage is just now dropping a dock about here, as he's also luring the bar. He's having at least a few of them on the left, but looking, oh, this might be a problem, because since Winchester is probably going to be advancing into a bit more water into the middle, as he knows there's going to be a bit more extra of it, they might be stealing fishies from each other, and that will mean that they will run out quite soon, and might be having a bit of a problem, especially as far as Courage goes, with replacing, or rather moving somewhere else for some other fishies. Warrior is going to be pretty much fine, having a lot of deep fish literally all around the island. only in here at the very back could be potentially a bit of a problem, but don't really expect that all that much, especially since he has set up himself quite nicely right next to the deep fish and he's having a lot of them in here, so he's going to be pretty much fine about and happy about the positioning of his dock. Looking at the shape of the islands, for example, for a trade route, this is a very nice one for yellow. It's broad and long, so that's very nice for him. Not a bad one for warrior either, even though this is a horrible choke point, so not ideal. I don't really expect that this red island would be useful for it. Teal island is also pretty nice for trade route, also broad and long, but nothing like that could be said actually about VN's islands. Probably the best would be green, even though it's kinda shorter than the opponent ones, and there's literally nothing that they could be doing if the trade route doesn't get, or rather if the game gets into late game, because they are going to be having worse trade route, and that means that they should be really losing the game in there. But let's see if they maybe win before that comes into play. Interesting island. Would be important for keeping the middle of the map in check, especially considering that this is island and this is already the mainland of warrior. So this is definitely a good opportunity for landing in the later game, not really in the early game. Some extra stone and gold, nice to see for them. And there's going to be extra stone on the island between VN's Dark Knight and VIK's warrior. Probably not going to be all that much of a fighting for this, but there's going to be a lot more fighting for this island, even though it's basically in VIK's power, because these three golds are between basically Kirch, Winchester and Warrior, basically in the very nice pocket in here, as the red island ends about here, so potentially the castles for the red player are going to be very crucial for controlling the map, and there shouldn't be all that much of a chance for the ends to somehow get on all this gold. We are advancing into feudal ages, Dark Knight, Kirch and Warrior. So we can basically tell that all these three players are gonna be galley rushing, whereas the remaining players are going to be fast castling, and that's going to be the Japanese in the pocket, which was fully expected. Then the yellow player, Winchester, of course, is going to be fast castling as another pocket, with going for another dock a bit more into the offensive to the bottom. And then we are waiting for the last player who was just clicked in, that was Heimdall, who is going slightly slower with 24 villages as opposed to, of course, the 22. Interestingly, 20 for Warrior, or maybe even the 21 for Dark Knight, and that means that he's going to be having slightly better economy, but shouldn't be really fast castling, I'm thinking. Because that's still pretty decent advance, and he's just going to be having slightly better economy, and will be potentially helping in the early fighting, so that they can survive and let the pocket advance into the castle age strong. This is a lot of wood extra also. This is also why it's important for the red player. Because if the game goes late game, he's definitely going to welcome all the extra wood in there, and since he doesn't have to land for it, that's going to be really huge help to his game. So he's building a bit more aggressive dock into the right side, so he's going to be attempting to fight head on with Dark Knight, who is building himself so far at the very back, so he's hoping for a bit more defensive. Basically, this is telling us that they are hoping that the late game is going to be theirs, and they hope that Milo is going to be yet again the deciding factor as the Japanese and as the fast castling player. So it's going to be all about VIK's ability to somehow stop that plan. And on the dock moving up the shoreline, so that he's a bit closer to the middle of the map, as he's expecting there's going to be a lot of fighting going on between him and Warrior in there, which is definitely going to be the truth. But, well, there are already docks at the back quite nicely built by Heimdall, as he's taking care of all the fishies and didn't want to be adventurous into the middle. So, is he going to be found out finally by Teal? Well, not really anytime soon, as you can see that those guys are unfortunately choosing the wrong side. They don't really go through the top, they are going through the bottom. Nicely positioned houses to see in case there was some kind of attempt at landing. And well, all the rocks in here in a pretty nice safe position, and there is going to be just a bit more fighting at the bottom between Dark Knight and Warrior. 27 release for Milo with 16 fishing boats. Winchester is having 30 release and 13 fishing boats. It's kind of similar. Not any kind of significant advantage. But looking at the amount of fishes and the much more opportune position of the sea for Milo, I'm thinking he should be having much stronger water economy if the blue player can actually protect him enough. So far it seems like that he could, because Steel is not doing a really great job of somehow making life difficult even for the blue player, even though Kirch is having the high score, kinda curiously enough. But since he's sending right now all the reinforcements in, and Castle Ages are coming in for Winchester and Milo, you are probably going to be entering the scene, or rather the time, when all the 6 players are going to be playing fully onto the galleys. Number-wise, it's pretty equal, but looking how we are fighting next to the docks is of course going to be advantageous for Dark Knight, so I'm not exactly sure why Warrior is even engaging in here. Was definitely not a good idea from him, as there should be some extra galleys coming up pretty soon. Exactly. And he needs to be a whole lot more careful, because the numbers in here are probably not going to be significant enough for either of the players to win, and it would be probably better to somehow team up with the allies and hope to surprise their opponents and overpower them in some 2 versus 1, or maybe in some powerful 2 versus 2, who knows. Galleys already trickling in, as unfortunately the blue scout was a bit more annoying to the guys than they liked. And well, are we seeing purple boats already? Oh yes, we are. So purple is right now making sure that he is present on the battlefield as well. It seems like that he's going to be joining at the top, right next to blue, and where is actually blue navy? It's hard to see on the minimap. A few units in here, and a few of them here. Ah yeah, so that's most of the army from him. And he needs to be a whole lot more careful, as he ran into a trap, and he will definitely need to wait for the reinforcements, and especially for the army from the purple player, who is quite slow so far in supplying that kind of help. In the meantime, it's almost looking like that actually Dark Knight is having an upper hand in the fight with Warrior, as finally 4 galleys are in from the purple player, and of course are going to be for Winchester as well, as Hamdol is advancing into faster castle age, and that's of course yet again a bit of a surprise, as it's looking like that VIKs are quite engaged in the galley rushing, or not really rushing anymore, it's normal galley fighting in here, as Kirch and Warrior are not looking like they could be advancing all that soon. But I am proving wrong exactly right now, as Kirch is advancing as well. How's it looking, for example, with Warrior? Not having really the food yet, but going for market and such, so he's going to be attempting to advance. You can see even having the blacksmith already. And switching into the green player, he has just clicked, so yep, it's going to be pretty decent advances into castle from the end. So far they are doing a pretty good job, and they definitely do have a prepared strategy of what to do with them. What is actually the team bonus for Japanese? I don't really remember right now. Galleys better line of sight, so that's definitely good for better raiding and better booming for fishing boats, of course, in there. So that's why Japanese are not a bad choice at all. And especially when you get so lucky, as VS did in here, and Japanese spawned in the pocket. That was pretty huge bonus for them, and definitely something that will help them in the game overall. A pretty good job at the bottom. Just a few war galleys from Milo together with Dark Knight's army are doing a pretty good job in keeping Warrior in check and even forcing him back, but with the reinforcements, reinforcements. Basically the whole army from yellow player coming into play as well, right now noticed by purple, it's going to mean that they will have to fall a bit back and wait for Dark Knight to advance it through castle and get the war galleys himself, because this army is definitely not up to par with this and potentially the extra army from the red player, and well, they need to be a whole lot more careful than to lose all the units to this. Well, what's happening at the top? Blue and purple also having a bit of fun in here, with blue being basically just in the middle, having pretty nice army. Teal as well, but Teal is just now going for War Galley and Botkin Arrow, so he needs to wait a bit. So this is basically the correct moment for Heimdall to advance, and is he going to catch him off guard? Oh yes, he is. Oh my gosh, this is a big mistake. Even though he's not going to suffer some huge losses, there are going to be a whole lot of extra damage dealt that shouldn't have been there. And right now, he's going to turn back or not? he does have the numbers, I think. He does have the numbers, and especially he does have the docks right next by. And I'm fairly certain that Heimdall should be building docks about here, in the pocket, this pocket. It would definitely help him in basically not being forced to retreat all that often. And he would have much better replacement options into the battlefield in here. So that would be helping him quite nicely. In the meantime, Winchester has been able to push his opponents, both Dark Knight together with Milo, into a bit of a defensive as they were forced all the way back. Are we seeing some red army? Somewhere? Ah, we are in here, patrolling, just waiting for the castle age. That has just happened, Botkin Arrow coming in. War Galleys won't be really far behind, and in the meantime it means that Yellow is basically open to do whatever he wants, and I'm thinking it wouldn't be a bad choice if he went for a bit of raiding on the pocket, because so far the fishing bonus for the Japanese is paying off so strongly. You can see that he's having 17 fishing boats, and he's having so much extra fishies at the back still to actually to help him in the economy. So yep, that is something that maybe the VIKs should be thinking about, but so far they aren't. Looking at the release overall, as we are also seeing a pretty big engagement in here, there are 45 for Milo, 41 for Dark Knight, and 44 for Heimdall. Whereas the opponents for VIK, Scourge 42, Warrior just 34. Why is he having just 34 villages? What is the reason for that? That's really weird. It could be because he lost the water economy pretty soon. That could be the reason. He was quite soon raided on here, so maybe slowed him down, and he didn't have the exactly great economy that he hoped for. But otherwise, it's really curious. But on the other hand, Winchester is 57. So overall, they are basically equal. But Winchester is way ahead, especially since he has 13 extra fishing boats, which means that his economy is really over the top. Really over the top, and he should be the deciding factor in the game. So let's see. It's going to be all about the pockets, Winchester or Milo, because the other players are basically playing more or less equal with each other, but those two are the most important in their team so far. Yeah, it's looking like that actually Red is going to be having a bit of fun with Dark Knight at the bottom, as Imperial Ages are coming in as well from Winchester and Milo, exactly the pockets. Just confirming how important are they going to be for the game overall, and it's going to be all about who makes the first big mistake. And the big mistake could be if they time the attack incorrectly into galleons or anything like that, but it's really looking like that Winchester is taking this carefully. Courage is not going to be far behind, or rather far away from him, and that means that we shouldn't be seeing all that much of an engagement in here, as exactly Milo is waiting. Milo is waiting as well, and he will be waiting for galleons himself. So the only ones fighting are going to be Warrior at the bottom, together with his opponent, the Dark Knight. And well, you can see that Warrior is not really interested in the fighting in the first place. Yeah, he doesn't really mind losing the rocks. He can rebuild easily at the back, at the bottom. He doesn't really mind at all. Well, Dark Knight is house. That's kind of interesting. Just now recognizing that he needs to build some extra houses. Somebody else housed. Well, Heimdall also pretty much. 104, 115. Courage also having actually pretty low limit overall. And even lower for Warrior. Oh my. Oh my. Courage though, going into Imperial Age as galleons are of course coming in from both of the advances into the Imperial Age with chemistry as well. And let us see. Oh, this is aiming into big and decisive engagement in here. Waiting for Teal to join, and Blue is not far behind. Oh yeah, VNs are making a move. VNs are making the move because Red is absolutely nowhere close by. Oh my, this is horrible. And he's having pretty far away to go. So let's go here, and this should be... Oh, pretty decisive victory for VNs. Oh, let's see. VIKs should be retreating just about now. It should be saying, oh, there's Blue coming, so we need to retreat, and they are exactly like that. So this is a pretty important engagement right now for the game, as VNs should be getting an important edge, as Red is at the bottom just now, moving forward somewhere to help his teammates, but he's so far away and the boats are so slow. So this is going to be a very good opportunity for VNs to basically own the middle of the map, and if they use it correctly, they could even maybe land the red player, or much more importantly, they could somehow build castle. I think it could fit. I think it could just barely fit into this position, and if it could, well, that would be one hell of a place for a castle. That would be pretty great for them. So let's see how VNs are going to be able to use this pretty huge advantage for them, and mismanagement of the army from VIX, which they did not expect. That they did not expect that the game is gonna go this way. And well, it means that they are not even going to be able to take control of the middle island, for the time being at least. Red still not arriving at the battlefield, as it seems like that he has even stopped. Not interested in arriving in there. So yep, it's going to be just an advance to the forefront, and I'm slightly curious why maybe green isn't going through the bottom of the island, which would basically mean that yellow wouldn't have any kind of extra choice where to run. You would have just to the top. You would have just to the top to run, and that would be ideal for the blue boats and for the purple boats, as they would be dealing a huge amount of damage to the boats in here, because they would be still in the range there. So red not joining, curiously enough. I have absolutely no idea what's going on in here. Whereas all the three armies from the ends are engaging in here. All the three armies. This is just one half of the green army. Whereas the other half is going to the bottom and is gonna have a look somewhere along the shoreline to see if there's something to kill. Like, for example, those red dudes. So far though, it seems like that it's actually been quite nicely gauged by VIX, because Winchester together with Courage were able to deal with three armies at once. Well, that's one hell of a good job, but of course that could be also because of the dogs being on their side and they having a very easy way with the reinforcements, and that of course plays a very big role in the engagements in here. So, VNs were forced to retreat. They unfortunately for them weren't able to actually take any kind of significant advantage of this interesting tactical situation on the battlefield, whereas VIX seemed to have actually gauged it perfectly. They have gauged it perfectly because they haven't lost any kind of units from Warrior, and Warrior was basically left to do whatever he wanted. So he has been able to catch up with the villages finally at 65. That's the same as the opponents. Winchester just way ahead at 84 and 17, or rather 13 fishing boats. So they are playing really nicely in there, especially Winchester. That was exactly what I was saying when the game started, that Winchester could be a reason why this map choice might not be a especially great idea for VIX. Rather for VN, sorry, this is VN home map. Going to be a bit of raiding with the galleons at the back. Good idea to finally get rid of the water economy of the Japanese. And well, green player right now having a bit of fight against the red island, and he's going to be able to kill at least a few units in here. This is unfortunately, I think, too far away. This one as well, so he's not gonna be having any kind of luck with killing the economy of the red player, but he should be. He should be allowed to land. And you can finally see the landing. Going to be prepared. Purple is already thinking about it. Oh, he has actually landed on this island. There's an island in here. So yes, this is an important stage in the game, because if he can drop the docks in here, and much more importantly the castle about here as well, this is going to be a very good defensive position and good basically island to jump into the island of his opponent and then kill the warrior with it. Bit of engagement, purple and red. Of course, red is having a bit more boats. But with green coming into the fun, that's not going to be enough red for that. Imperial Age coming for, of course, Warrior and Heimdall as well. So everything is so far pretty much equal all around the map. What isn't equal is right now fighting behind the blue base, or is it? If it was just this part of the boats, it wouldn't be. But with all the extra flank at the bottom, it definitely is. So that's going to be a pretty good engagement for the blue player. But where is yellow? Right now joining into the battle at the bottom. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Nice maneuvering, and pretty bad luck for Dark Knight, who is going to lose a whole lot of units in here, because he doesn't have anywhere to run. Red to the bottom, yellow to the top, and well, goodbye. Goodbye all the powerful galleons in here. You are not going to survive this engagement, so very nicely played by VIX, and potentially a bit of a problem, but maybe not for long, because reinforcements are already on the way, especially with the other player joining in, and that the other player is Milo. So, that's red army goodbye, or rather green army goodbye, whereas yellow is not having all that much of it in here. And I'm thinking that actually purple and VNs overall should be pushing for this island, because if they can capture it, with a castle. And maybe even siege workshop for siege rams to tank some damage. They would be making life very difficult for their opponents, as of course they would be able to set themselves up right next to VIKs. And that is often a pretty big problem to deal with. Yeah, right now it is the time for yellow and red to retreat, as these both are in pretty big numbers, whereas at the back, blue is right now dealing with the deal nuisance, and Courage will have to be a whole lot more careful how many units he sends and where. Docks in the middle, with the houses and such. And we are seeing more coming from Milo. Switch into his point of view, what he's carrying in there. A lot of villages, and they are aiming what? They could be going in here, because right now Red will not know that the landing is happening. So is he going in here, or is he going to the left island? Oh, he's going to the left. But he will have to turn back, because right now the numbers are just too big. And he needs to go back. He could just as well land red, and go full land. I don't really think that would be any kind of problem with it. And if they can kill a warrior who has just built a very important castle in here for his defense, it's of course going to be just one player less, and yep, not even Winchester could be able to come back from that. A few yellow boats, basically just guarding and scouting what's going to happen. And yellow is finally in here, because he has seen what Milo was attempting to do, that he was going for this island exactly as we talked about it, but he doesn't want that at all. He needs to prevent that at all costs, and that is going to be a very important island because of the gold, and of course extra wood as well. And the castle is going to make life very difficult for VN, so they should be already deciding to land in here and build a castle about here. Really, just on top of Warriors Island, why not? Or maybe at least here. I'm really curious if the castle would fit in there. Coinage for Winchester. Aha, that's curious. Almost as if he actually wanted to send resources to someone, and I'm thinking it could be Warrior, because Scourge is kinda occasionally off. Whereas Warrior is still having the least resources, or at least economy and such. Yeah, and he's even losing villages right about now, due to very good trading from Dark Knight. Oh, he's actually already lost a lot of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 villages, I think, are about that in here. That's not bad. And there's going to be a bit of engagement in the middle, as there are... Oh yeah, this is going to be pretty good 2v2, but VNs have to be careful about the castle, because it is just about now finished, and they are probably going to be dropping another, or it's just a town center, for the gold, and we are going to be waiting for Siege Workshop and the Siege Rams a bit later. Heavy blow ballistics coming up. Now the dock placement in here, into a bit more of an aggressive position, which was exactly where I was suggesting to build the docks a whole lot sooner for VNs, as it will be right next to the battlefield and helping them with the reinforcements. And with Captrams coming on from Heimdall, he's thinking that this is going to be a pretty good spot for him. It's going to be a pretty good spot for him to somehow tank a bit of damage from the enemy Galleons. Did I hear it correctly? Yes, I did, because I thought I heard stables being built, and I was correct. Finally, the landing did happen. And it's going to be into horses, and Warrior, does he know about it through the house? No, he doesn't through the house, but he knows through the boats. Which means that he'll have to prepare for this, but he at least has a castle, so he can build, I don't know, some berserkers or whatnot. Another pretty defensive castle. Very important for him to protect the tree line, which is crucial for him with the gold as well. But I don't really think it's going to matter all that much, because this is just disaster for him waiting to happen, as light cavalry is already coming in from the Japanese, and well, with the coinage in Dark Knight, I'm thinking that there's going to be a bit of slinging into him to make sure that this landing is going to be super powerful. Japanese castle, so samurais with light cavalry. Yeah, well, that's not going to be much that Viking can do against that. Let's be clear about this. They seem to be controlling this position quite nicely, and castle does fit in here, into this position, as we're hoping. And it seems like that they are in pretty good position, as yellow, with courage, cannot really advance further into this position yet. So these castles are going to be finished, and I'm just waiting for basically cannon galleons. That's something I'm missing right about now, as they are probably going to be crucial in getting rid of this island, which is so far looking like it could be something that will keep VIX alive. So yep, let's see about that. Big fighting happening. So where is actually Red? At the bottom, trying to keep himself happy, and oh, there might be a bit of landing on this island first, and maybe even on Green. But Green is quite nicely patrolling with the scout and having the houses everywhere, so he will know. And oh, there's another landing, sorry, by Dark Knight. So that's even a double length right about now, and Dark Knight is supplying interesting castle in here, and that will of course help him with getting extra wood from this part of the island and making sure that he does have some extra siege to get rid of Warrior. So first landing is in here, so far seems to be pretty powerful and quite useful for them, whereas at the top it's almost looking like that actually VNs are slowly but surely coming forward, and we have seen that Warrior was going for cannon galleons but actually cancelled it. I kind of think it makes sense because he needs all the resources for actually defense. He's already having some rams. Caravan coming in for market. That might have been actually by the transport shippings here, because he will need to build the market on the other islands. Probably here. Yeah, you can see the market on Winchester's island. As they are being quite forcibly pushed back, but with the castle still being in position, there's not much that they could be doing all that much about it. Workshop being built by Winchester, castle built in here, and we are going to be going back to this position as already the trebuchet is getting ready. Fortunately, yeah, this is the problem of the island. The same as it is a problem for Warrior, it's right now a problem for the landing. But with the trebuchets coming in, they're gonna get rid of the castle, and some extra units like samurais and light cavalry are just gonna be guarding that quite nicely against potential army, like those berserkers and even the rams. Well. So this army hasn't really moved anywhere so far, and looking at the minimap, I don't really think I have extra attempts on some different landing. For example, I would be maybe expecting that Blue would be thinking about something, and he is. He might be really, because there's Blue. Oh no, not here, not here. You will see just now. Go back. Oh, this is this kind of landing. I thought it might be actually villages, and no. These are siege rams, and that's a pretty nice one for him, as he's gonna get rid of the castle very easily. And this castle, on the other hand, is gonna come up very easily himself, and that will mean he will just wreak havoc amongst all those woodies, as he's quite ready for it with the galleons in the right side, right next to the docks. You can see that he has already made sure that he was annoying in the middle. Trebuchets are still very much alive, getting rid of the castle as much as they can right about now. Good job in that. And he's gonna be attempting to even a house warrior who already is housed, because of course castle is a whole lot of population, and right now being dropped in there, that's going to be a pretty good opportunity for Green, and maybe even his eyes, to somehow reduce the number of the boats that Warrior is having. So tough times coming for Warrior, whereas in the middle the battle is not really moving anywhere, and we even see a longboat. We even see a longboat in here, and not the one. Actually a whole lot of them, so that's 160 hit points, 8+4 attack. 165, 8+4, 0, 8+1, 7+3. So the only advantage is going to be cost. Let's just check and make sure. Ah, where is Doc? Here is Doc. So of course galley is costing 72.24, whereas longboat is costing 80 wood, 40 gold. But it's built. That's weird. Why would you build them then? Ah, because it fires multiple arrows, because it has actually bigger attack in there, so that's the reason. Sorry about that. And that makes a whole lot of sense, because if they are going to be shooting against tight-packed armies, exactly like the boats usually are, that's of course going to help them quite substantially. Interesting fight at the bottom, as Red is doing all he can to defend against the water fighting and against the land fighting as well. So unfortunately for VNs, their fight isn't really leading into anything all that constructive, but it's not over yet. There's still a pretty good chance for them to make something happen out of it. As well, at the top side we are seeing a pretty nice push of the siege rams, supported by all the galleys, getting rid of a whole lot of villages in here. You can see all the skeletons for Courage, and he's gonna lose a whole lot of units and buildings, of course, because there's absolutely no way that he could be defending against this, as he doesn't have the buildings for that, and he's running out of wood. Oh man, it's almost looking like that actually Blue is going to be controlling his wood, and that will mean that he's out. That he's out. Without wood you can't really build any kind of boats, even though you are having cheaper ones as Viking, and that will spell a disaster for his teammate, because Winchester is going to be pretty much the only one to be having any kind of fighting chance in here. But it's almost looking like that actually the longboats are paying off quite strongly. You can see that he's pushing forward just by himself against two opponents, and he was just wrecking all those galleons with the longboats. So that's a definitely great idea. Great idea from Winchester, and let's see if this might somehow actually salvage the game from VIX, because so far I'm fairly certain that VNs are winning. Even though it's not something all that convincing, they are. They are, and it's going to be up to Winchester as the strongest player from their team and the pocket to somehow turn this around. Well, I don't remember ever seeing so many longboats. I really don't. He seems to be having the economy for it, so why not? He does have the long trade route. He does have the longest island of his teammates, so that's quite nice for him. As at the top we are seeing the siege rams getting rid of the barracks and all the buildings in here, as he's desperately trying to defend. But so many skeletons. You can see Courage drop to how many? 60 villages. Just 60 villages, whereas everybody else is about 100. And he was as well, I'm fairly certain of it. So that means that his economy is basically in tatters right about now. And there should be a pretty great opportunity for push for Vikingos Nomaras. And let's see if they will be able to somehow close the game. So far they're having all kinds of troubles with that. Even though this landing attack is still continuing, with Dark Knight attempting to drop castle. Siege workshop attempted by Warrior to supply some siege rams, but so far not really working all that much. And I'm thinking that with a bit of extra help, for example from Purple, this could be something that would win VNs the game. Because if VIK Warrior is out of the game altogether, it doesn't really matter how strong VIK Winchester or Courage are, as you can't win 2 versus 3 basically. So that would be why that might be a good choice for VNs, but so far that's not really happening. Kept rams for Winchester, as he will be attempting probably to build some extra rams around this island, so that they are taking some damage from the opponents, as longbows are shooting so many arrows. And they're actually having also a pretty decent rate of fire, it seems like. They are doing such a great damage in here. Such a good job. It's a very nice idea from him. But well, let's have a look in here. As Blue is just finishing with mopping up of the island, and this is important. Exactly as I was talking about a minute earlier. Courage is out of wood. He's literally down to about this. That seems like the only wood that he has. Yeah, it actually is. This and this. Exactly. The remaining wood for him, because Blue is doing such a great job of keeping him out of all the rest on this part of the island, and that means that he won't be able to supply any kind of boats at all, and it's going to be up to Winchester to somehow win the game against two opponents. Well, quite frankly, good luck with that. Attack at the bottom seems to be moving somewhere, as Dark Knight is switching a bit more into the offensive against this Viking, as a Viking as well, going for Berserkers himself. Berserkers against Berserkers, of course. And with the trebuchets, and not much of a chance of the enemy army of getting rid of it, as he seems to be winning on the water as well against all those boats from Warrior. It's almost looking like that actually Dark Knight might be closing the deal on the red player, but let's not call it a day yet, as Winchester is still very much alive with his longbows and such, and is keeping two of his opponents quite engaged, even though he would like if there was a bit more engagement of Blue by Courage. Courage is moving forward. Fortunately, there's already a castle in place, so that's pretty much deadly damage to all those guys. Banking coming in from Milo, Loom, and Captram for Courage. Well, getting Loom when you have already lost like 50 villages. That's a bit too late, isn't it? But, well, why not, I guess. It's going to help him not to be hammered even further. But with the castle right now nicely dropped by Heimdall, with landing himself, yep, it seems like that he's going to be aiming for the final and decisive push himself, especially since he already has a castle at the bottom of the island of VIK Courage. This is going to be Siege Workshop number 2, and with Stable. So a lot of Siege Rams together with, what is Heimdall? Viking with some Knights and potentially Cavaliers. Forging coming in, as they are inching forward, as it seems like that even Winchester is having pretty much right now the problems of dealing with this, as he is being pushed back by Milo together with Heimdall, and it doesn't look like that he will be able to stall both armies just by himself for much longer. Well, Green seems to be having a bit more problems than we were actually expecting with Warrior, especially on the water. On the land, it's not really all that much more problematic. But he definitely could use something to kill. Could cast a building to kill the units, so some berserkers and such, but he doesn't seem to be having enough economy for that. And he actually could be having some trash war. He could be building just spikes. I wouldn't think that would be a bad idea. Oh, they were just hidden. Okay. But I think just building a lot of spikes wouldn't be a bad idea. He does have the resources for that. You can see 3000 wood, 2000 food. And since his opponent Warrior doesn't have anything at all, I think it would be working. You can see he's having a lot of free population limit, 40 population limit, basically free. So he can afford it. And even the stupid spikes could be a good enough army to get rid of the economy and get rid of potentially any kind of extra units that might be coming up for him. Like, for example, the siege rams in here. So, looking on the right side, Heimdall is doing a pretty good job with Kirch, trying to keep him out of the game altogether, but unfortunately he let on the pressure on the top side. That was also because Kirch was having enough boats finally to relinquish, or rather, to somehow help himself in there, and he has moved this army into a bit of raiding, trying to get rid of the economy of purple player, but much more importantly, this is potentially a problem. This could be a pretty deadly raiding. If actually Courage did discover this and land it all here with all the boats, well, that would be goodbye trade route and pretty big problem for VNs. So there's definitely a way for victory for Vikings. Not Vikings, Viks, Berserkers. I still don't understand why they are not Vikings, but Berserkers. But I'm thinking it could be actually because of the special unit of the Berserkers. And since it's from Vikings, they are having the tag VIK. Yeah, I'm thinking that might be it. That might be it. And we are waiting for other players. Not really sure what's happening. Hopefully it's not any kind of drop or anything, as we are quite late into the game. Hour of gameplay. As on the left side, Yellow is still doing all he can to defend against both Blue and Purple and doing such a great job against that. Even though it's still meaning that he's not pushing forward. So, yep, it's basically exactly what VNs need because they are slowly but surely pushing through the bottom and through the top as well. So it's going to be pretty hard for Vix to somehow turn this game around. Pretty good second flank of Milo's Armada. He's having one of the flanks already on the left fighting. As this one is trying to take care of all the boats by Courage. Plate mail armor for Dark Knight, trying to have as best berserkers as he can. A lot of gold right now for Courage actually. Otherwise, we are probably not going to see all that much of it with either player. Yeah, exactly as expected. Exactly as expected. I'm gonna check into the game room. What's the hold up? If it's something unexpected or just a normal pause. Seems like that players are slowly coming back for one reason or another. Exactly sure. Hopefully it's gonna finish. What to have a look at? Well, of course, trebuchets to get rid of the castle. Not really successful so far from Warrior. And the only military building is the castle itself. So far he is not building any kind of berserkers because he probably doesn't have the echo for it. I'll be thinking, oh well, he could be. He's having a lot of food. The gold is so he's probably wanting to spare it for all of the galleons. And at the top, that's a lot of stables. With light cavalry coming in as well. Okay, so it's going to be light cavalry and siege rams, and that seems like that might be pretty much it in there for them. Gonna ask in the room what's up. It's maybe finished altogether or not, not exactly sure. Going for the lumber camp, and here we are finishing. And yep, it's because it's going to be over pretty soon. It seems like there was a bit of a pause between players, or there might be some kind of drop a bit later. We'll see, but let's check how's it gonna look in here. I'm fully expecting that actually Courage is not going to be able to do anything. He's having just one barracks at the top, and that can't really produce enough to even stop the light cavalry with rams in here, as at the bottom it seems like that all the berserkers should be getting a freeway in their opponent's base, but careful, there are still boats left, as he needs to get rid of the wall, which is something that he actually forgot to do before deploying them from the castle. Oh my, that's a bit of a shame. Just now siege rams coming in, but he could definitely use at least a bit of petards to quickly get through, but so far that is not happening. It's almost looking like that it's going to be, in the end, maybe a restore. But since we are having 2 minutes 30 of spectator delay, we are still having a bit of game left in here. So let's wait for how this will actually develop in here. And is there something happening in here? Not really. Seems to be pretty much fine still, and this is a pretty big opportunity yet again for Courage if he wanted to make still something happen with the game. But it seems like he won't be able to, because the second flank of Milo's army is arriving not only to kill the rest of the armada of his, but also to kill a whole lot of economy that is remaining at the top, and well, that's pretty much it. So they are starting with the game with a restore. So we are... I'm not even gonna check the post game. There's not really much point in here, as the game is probably not going to last a whole lot of longer. And game is up, so let's check the resolution of this game. Bit of a landing attempted by Green. As you can see, he's hoping that he can actually switch a bit more villages to the left side of the channel to get some extra wood in here. And he has already broken through, as you can see, and the berserkers are right now wreaking havoc inside the economy and basically killing the warrior altogether. You can see that warrior is having 60 idle villagers, or rather 40 idle villagers out of 60 total, and he seems to be already moving to the left, at least with the market in here, whereas at the top, blue is fully killing Courage and getting rid of absolutely everything, killing town centers, killing the villagers, getting rid of everything that lives in the teal color, and that means that Courage is down to 38 villages, 17 of them idle, and the game is basically up to Berserker, or rather up to Winchester, who is the only one and last man standing in this battle, and that of course means that there's just a question of time before we ends are gonna be able to close on him as well and get rid of him. Interesting transport from Warrior as well, of course, as not only did he use at least a few trees in here, he's using all the stone that is on the island, potentially helping him defend with castles and maybe even send it to his allies. Oh, slaughter coming up. Oh, not. They're probably going to retreat to the castle fast enough. Was hoping for a bit of fun in there, but the amount of berserkers in here should be basically telling us that he will be owning absolutely everything on that island. There's not going to be much that he could be doing against that. At the same time, Warrior is still having pretty strong army. Pretty strong army, as he's losing a castle, quite surprisingly. And has he lost it? How has he lost it? To all those trebuchets from the left. Warrior is right now pushing forward as well, with pretty nice landing of siege rams, and VIKs are most definitely not giving up at all. And why would they? This is the last game potentially. If they lost it, they would be out. So they need to win this at all costs, and so far I'm not fully out, so why not give it a try? Oh yeah, killing the water economy and of course some extra villages from green. And we have seen even a, or rather heard even a monk in here. And well, fortunately a lot of villages in here, so they could potentially get rid of all those Sincherems. Especially with all the Armada coming back to help get rid of the yellow army. Yeah, this is not a good spot for the yellow to be, because if some army went to the left side, he wouldn't have anywhere else to run, and that would be a pretty big shame for him, and pretty big losses on the water. Otherwise, blue is stealing on all the wood that he can get. Still a bit of courage alive in here, but not really for much longer, I'm thinking. You can see just one last villager on the left. Some hunter from this deer. But that's pretty much it for him, as this inevitable push by the blue player is going to be getting rid of him pretty soon, as it's just a question of time before he has enough army and enough support from the water to get rid of the remaining buildings. I'm fairly certain he could even go with all the villages and finish it right now. I'm fairly certain about it. But he doesn't want to. He wants to take this a bit more carefully, and that means that we are gonna see a bit of an annihilation of the yellow army at this cove in here, and well, that's a lot of shame, but they are going to be fighting to the last man, most definitely. As berserkers from the green player are getting rid of the pesky siege works. And the last boat, and that's it for this part of yellow army, and there is still at least a few boats left on the left side, and he's having some transport ships ready in here, but I'm not exactly sure where he would want to transport. Maybe on Red's island to help him? I'm not really sure, because he's Viking, so it's not like he can actually supply some super army to help him, because of course all three Viks are Vikings. And well, at least Red is doing what he can with what he's given, and he is attempting to get rid of the army that his opponents are having, and of course of the economy as well. So far, not really doing a half bad job at that. Still keeping himself alive at least a bit. Even at 32 villages, just with Warrior having 56. Winchester 120, and Heimdall is the one right now with the biggest army of villagers right now, 133. So really, what I would do if I were him, I would just send all the villages to the town center and get rid of it. That's like not much that could happen against this from courage. Now all the villages coming in, as he's of course probably running out of wood on his island. He has just run out of all the wood, like literally all of the wood in here. And that means that he should be just moments away from eliminating all the army from courage, and all the guys right now coming for the remainder of the wood line in here, as on the left there are just a few stragglers left, and that's pretty much it. On the red island, TC is gonna down to berserkers, whereas there's not really much left, just the one castle, and the remaining castle in here, but no resources, as all the stone has right now being gathered from. And it also means that the red army is going to be the last one that will somewhere hold on, but I'm thinking that he's already toast altogether. Yeah, you can see that right now Winchester is going to be the last one, with at least a few units in here, and it's just basically going to be waiting for the GGs, as they are waiting for total annihilation, not wanting to give up at all. And they are allowing VNs to get some extra points into their score, as Courage is the first to resign, and the Viks are going to be following Warrior next, and Winchester is going to be the last one, last captain to go down with the boat, as he was also the biggest player for their team and the strongest player overall. GG, and congratulations Vikingos Nomaras, you are advancing into the grand finals of season 39 of RTSD's Age of Empires 2 the Conquerors Clan League. Pretty good achievement, And of course, pretty good job by Viks, because advancing into the semifinals and over RFR and some other clans as well. Definitely great job as well, and we have seen some very good plays by you, and quite worthy match of the semifinals, even though it ended just 3-0. But the games were definitely worth it, as they were quite long, all of them. Yep, real GG's. Real GG's. So let's check into the achievements, where we are going to see that Winchester was the MVP. I have to agree, he was playing simply great. He was the only reason why actually VNs were having such a hard time dealing with them. And you could have seen somewhere in the middle in there, the big fight, once they were advancing into Imperial Ages, he was able, with just Courage, in 2 players hold all 3 VNs just by themselves, didn't even need Warrior to help. And that was exactly what shows you how good Winchester is on the water. So in the end, the choice of the water home map paid off for VNs, and exactly was confirmed what I said at the start. Triple Vikings is not such a great idea. If you have some diversion in there, like the Japanese, it's going to be working for you wonders. And it did for VNs in the end, even though it took quite a long time. Biggest army for mile in the end. Not bad military scores. 640 kill for Winchester. Was really great. Great. Not much slinging. That was just near the end where the economies were assaulted. And when somebody needed a bit of push, get faster into the next age, into Imperial, I think. So yeah, GG.